Hey, what's going on, guys? So I have a bit of an update for the channel to announce, which is that I'm going to be starting a new series on the channel. I'm going to be making a 10 HP no shop Ironman, and I'll explain more of what that is in this video. But I'm going to be uploading a series of progress videos on the account, starting a couple days after I upload this video. So I'm going to explain what that type of an account is and what the rules are going to be for my series. So obviously, first of all, it's an Ironman, an official one, so of course you can't trade or do any of that stuff. It's not going to be a hardcore Ironman because it's very difficult to keep 10 HP hardcores alive. And although that is a challenge in its own right, it's not really one that I enjoy. So I'm not going to be even attempting to do that. Secondly, and obviously, I'll have to stay 10 HP, which is pretty self-explanatory. This means I can't really kill anything, but there are some ways to get around it. But certainly I won't be able to kill anything in very large quantities or very quickly. But there are still other ways that I can train my combats through other means, as you will see in the series. And also, of course, being 10 HP makes the game a lot more difficult because you can get one shot by a lot of enemies, and going into like multi-combat areas and stuff like that is very dangerous. This will make doing certain quests and going to certain areas a lot more difficult. And a lot of quests, of course, just won't be possible because of the fact that you have to kill a boss or something like that. Or, of course, if the quest itself awards you HP XP, obviously. And then lastly, but certainly not least, there is the most perhaps confusing part, which is the no shop part. What this basically means is that you cannot purchase any items from shops. And what I personally consider to be a shop is anytime there is an exchange of currency. This obviously includes what you would normally think of as a shop, where the interface pops up and you can buy or sell things that are stocked in the shop. But this also does extend to other situations where an interface does not pop up. So, for example, you can talk to Ned in Draenor Village and give him a certain amount of coins, and he will give you a rope. So I would personally consider that to be a shop because you're basically just buying a rope, but the only difference is an interface doesn't pop up. You do it through the chat box, but that's still a shop in my opinion. However, you also have the option to give him 3 balls of wool, and he will turn those 3 balls of wool into a rope for you for free. So I would say that that is not a shop because there was no sort of exchange of currency. You're basically just asking him for a favor, essentially, to do something that you don't have the skills to do. So I realize that that's a little bit more of a gray area, and I'll handle things like that on a case-by-case basis. However, there are 2 exceptions that I'm going to make to this rule right now. First of all, if there's an item that you need to complete a quest, and the only way in the whole game to get the item is to buy it from the shop, then you can buy it from the shop just to complete the quest. However, if there's any other way whatsoever, no matter how unreasonable, to get the item besides buying it from the shop, then that's what you have to do to get it. And the other exception that I'm going to make is for skill capes, which do obviously fit the definition of a shop. However, I basically just want to have skill capes for Fashionscape, and they really don't do anything overpowered anyways, so it's really not a big deal. So I am going to make an exception for those. And I may make more exceptions down the line on a case-by-case basis. Otherwise, those are the only 2 exceptions for right now. However, you are allowed to do things like pay 10 GP to cross the Alcarid Gate, or pay 30 GP to travel on the ship from Port Sarim to Karumja. That is allowed because although, yes, you are giving them currency, you're not getting any item in return, so I do not consider that a shop. But that's enough of these gray area cases that really aren't all that important anyways. The real reason for the no shop challenge and what makes it so challenging is that there's a handful of shops in the game that make Ironman mode, and specifically 10 HP Ironman mode, a lot easier. And by not allowing myself to use those shops, it makes the game not only a lot more difficult, but a lot more interesting, in my opinion, because it forces you to use a lot of content in the game that doesn't really ever get used by any other sort of account type. And some specific shops worth mentioning that me not having access to will make the game a lot more difficult include the Blast Furnace shop, which sells a bunch of various types of ore in 100 stock each world, so you can easily hop through all the worlds and get as much ore as you want. And money is never really an issue on an Ironman type of account anyways, so you can basically just buy as much ore as you need to train your smithing and never really have to mine in order to train your smithing. And I personally think that's really stupid. I don't think this shop should even be in the game, to be honest with you. I think it's really overpowered, and I think that, to train your smithing on an Ironman type of account, you should have to mine all the ore yourself and bank it all, whether that be with motherlode or blast mining, or I don't really care, but you should have to actually mine it yourself, in my opinion. And right now, no Ironmen are really doing that because you can just buy it from the shop. Another big one is the Dwarf Multi-Cannon, which can only be obtained by buying it from a shop. Especially for a 10 HP account, a cannon is extremely useful. With it, you can get 99 Slayer, but you just have to make a lot of cannonballs. And you can, of course, get 99 range a lot easier, and you can basically kill whatever you want by just cannoning it. So I personally feel like that's a little bit easy, but more so it's just kind of boring. I don't really want to spend the time making all the cannonballs and sitting there reloading cannonballs all day, basically. I would rather just pretty much phase out combat entirely and be able to get my stuff through other means. Plus, the ability to kill monsters would really get rid of a lot of content that I can do by collecting herbs and stuff like that through other means. Instead, it would be better to just kill things for the resources instead of actually getting them the proper way. So by not having a cannon, there's really no realistic way for me to consistently do combat. So because of that, I won't really be able to do it, and I'll have to get resources through other skilling means, which I think will be a lot of fun. Also, the no shop rule extends to other shops that don't exchange GP but other forms of currency, including any kind of reward shop for a minigame. So, for example, I couldn't use the Nightmare Zone shops, even though I don't know how I would get the points anyways. But I would not be allowed to do stuff like that because it is still considered a shop, in my opinion. And of course, I will also not be allowed to use any of the rune shops throughout the game. And considering the fact that I can't kill anything in order to get runes that way, pretty much the only way that I'll be able to get runes is by actually making them myself with rune crafting, which I think is a good thing because it makes the rune crafting skill actually useful and something that you're actually training in order to get items that you need rather than just to get experience. And once again, since I can't use the Nightmare Zone shop or kill anything, the only real way for me to get essence, I think, is to actually mine it all myself. And of course, there's many various items that will become more difficult to get. Many just, tools and quest items, or, equipment that you need for clue scrolls and stuff like that will become actually a lot more challenging to get because of the fact that I can't use shops. So what I like about this account is not just that it makes the game more challenging, but also that, in my opinion, it makes it a lot more interesting by giving you a reason to do a lot of the content in the game that never really gets used by any other sort of account type. And it gives you an excuse not to do a lot of the content in the game that I personally think is broken and makes me just feel dirty for using it. And the other thing that I like about this account is that you can theoretically get pretty much everything. Like, I guess theoretically you could get an Ellie, you could Ring of Recoil and Vengeance, the Corporal Beast to death, and get an Ellie on your first kill and get an Ellie that way, I guess. But obviously, of course, that's pretty unlikely. But the point is, you can get just about anything that you want in this game. Pretty much everything is possible with this type of an account. It's just a lot of it's not very realistic. So anyways, that pretty much wraps up the overview of this account type. And like I said, I will be uploading the first video for that series in a couple of days.